Welcome to the Motherhood Tribe. We are your hosts, Erika, Katy, Valerie, and Jackie. Come join us as we talk all things motherhood, marriage, and just plain life. We have learned the importance of having a tribe from each other, and now we want to share that with you. We're so happy you're here. Come join our tribe. Welcome, moms, back to this week's episode. This week we have my friend Megan. I have known Megan since middle school, and we are here with Megan and her wife, Chrissy, and we are so excited to hear all about their experience. They have so many different things that they have gone through, and I just think this is going to be a really great episode for all moms to kind of just learn from them, and so we're excited to have you guys here. To begin, let's start with just having you tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Megan Barrett. I grew up in South Jordan, Utah. I'm the oldest of 4 girls, so I grew up in an all-girl house. And life growing up was very happy, very religious family, conservative. It felt like life was very safe, very carefree. I graduated from Bingham High School, went to BYU, and then I served an LDS mission in London, England. And shortly when I came back, I came out and finished BYU closeted, and kind of went through the next decade trying to figure out, trying to reconcile my upbringing with what I wanted for the rest of my life. And one thing I kept coming back to is I wanted to be a mom. I love being a mom. That the kids and family and a spouse has always been what I have found the most happiness in my life. So I feel like where I am right now has been years in the making. It's been hard and it's been exciting. And I am so happy and so fortunate to be where I'm at right now.
All right, Chrissy, let's hear from you.
I have a lot more to say than Megan. I always have a lot more to say than Megan. I'm just kidding. No, it's true, but I am just kidding. So my name is Chrissy. I grew up in Ogden, Utah, in very similar upbringing as Megan, a very conservative religious family. I am the middle child of 5 kids. I had a happy childhood with my siblings, I would say, but my parents went through 2 divorces with each other. So they were divorced and then remarried to each other and then divorced again when I was a senior in high school. I ended up going to college in California. My boyfriend at the time, who I ended up marrying, he followed me out there and came with me. And then a few years into college, we got married and we had Brady, who is our now 16-year-old. But similar to Megan, it wasn't until a little bit later in my life, probably after a few years of marriage, that I started realizing that I was gay and that my marriage was more of, in my experience with it, was something that, based on my religious upbringing, was something that I chose to do because that's what I was supposed to do, all along. And so for other reasons than that, we were divorced, and Brady's dad, he went down a different road and actually has not been in Brady's life since he was about 9 years old. So wow. Megan actually was able to adopt Brady just a few months ago. Yeah, in December. So that was,
oh my goodness. Yeah, that's awesome.
That was huge. I mean, from my divorce and, beyond that, back in 2007, I was kind of put into a position where I had to get a job. And that was right during the big recession, right? So I had been doing real estate just to help with our personal investment business that we had been running at the time. And so because we were divorced, I was, no longer able to be the stay-at-home mom that I always planned to be. And I was lucky enough to get into a job in the real estate world, but not as a real estate agent. So I work for a private equity hedge fund now. I manage the real estate portfolio in the simplest terms.
She's the VP of real estate over a hedge fund.
There we go. Let's get to the real stuff.
Right?
Yeah.
She's a big deal.
Yes.
So anyway, so I was still living in Ogden, commuting to Salt Lake a lot. I had a girlfriend at the time for several years. We broke up and I did the single mom thing for I would say even a majority of that period of time. So for Brady, I spent a lot of time commuting, and he was really fortunate to have a lot of really good family friends who would take care of him for me while I was, commuting back and forth. And so when I met Megan, we decided, and Brady actually made the decision that he wanted to move down into, the southern Salt Lake Valley so that we could be closer to my work, so he could spend more time with me and us before he graduated high school. So we moved down here and we got married and we built a house, and
now we're around each other all the time.
Now we're quarantined together.
And whether you like it or not.
Yeah. And we live in suburbia, and it's pretty awesome. The life that we always planned to have, just not quite in the way we planned to get here, right? Mm-hmm. Kids, beautiful home. We love our neighbors. We have amazing jobs. We feel really, really fortunate.
All right. There's a lot to unpack from that, because I want to talk about a little bit more about the, single mom, working mom dynamic, but also Megan, I want to hear your story because you have children as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. I bring 2 to this family of 5.
And I swore I was never having any more kids.
Yeah. I was very, very open and honest about that up front. One of my first relationships with a woman, we got married, and then pretty soon after that, we had Quinn. My whole idea with that, right, always wanting kids, is I wanted to legally have the kids be ours. I wanted to do it the right way. So I'm like, well, what do heterosexual couples do when they can't have kids, right? For whatever reason, what do they do? So I did a lot of research, and it's like, oh, they use cryobanks, right? So I looked into a couple different cryobanks around the United States. The one I really liked was in California. So we signed up, and we were able to, they show you newborn, a toddler, and like an early childhood picture of the donor. And so that's all you see. And then you get health history. And so we looked through all of them. And when I saw this one, I was like, he looks like me. He's got the light eyes, dark hair. And so we used him. And so we had Quinn first, our girl. So my ex-wife carried Quinn first. And then the year after that, I tried all year long. That was intense and really hard. That was a really hard year. It was just the waiting and the anticipation, and then the failure. and that got really emotional and really tough, because I wanted to carry really badly. And so eventually I got to the point where I was like, I can't emotionally do this. I need a break. And so we decided that she was going to try again. And the first time we tried again, she got pregnant with Tucker. So he's our second. And so we've got Quinn and Tucker. During that time, I made decisions in my life and kind of looked at where I was, and I was like, look, I want to be a mom. I want a family, but the situation was not right for me.
Which is probably really difficult. I mean, you're obviously giving us the short version, but that's obviously something that was probably not an easy decision to make.
That was really hard. That was hard and heartbreaking. And I think, something that is definitely a longer story and is very, very personal. Yeah. But I believed it was the right thing to do, the best way that I could be a parent, but also live the rest of my life in a way that I wanted to, in the way that I saw it. So I decided to make that call. Went through a divorce. It was not fun. So I have the kids 50-50, was what we ended up with. And then I saw this girl on Facebook that had like these gorgeous green eyes.
She totally stalked me.
And I knew she was kind of in the real estate world, and I was doing real estate at the time, and so I was, I sent you a message.
Cheesy, so cheesy.
And I convinced her to go on a date with me.
Let's be honest though, it took probably about 5 tries, because I was not dating and I was not interested in dating at all. I was into the single mom thing. It was me and Brady.
You were in a groove.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm good. I'm in a good spot. I'm single. I'm finally, where I want to be. And then I get this cheesy pickup message. And the rest is history.
And it worked somehow.
So how long have you guys been together?
We've been together for over 3 years now. We got married about 1.5 years ago. And yeah, so about this time 3 years ago, we were dating and just, getting the family introduced, the kids introduced to each other a little bit. So
right. And that was something that as a, knowing, we talk about blended families, we were very, very careful and cautious in introductions and slow in introductions. We felt like that was very important for the kids to still have that stability with us. And then as we made those introductions, we made them very gradual, very non-intimidating, and just kind of let that play out.
Yeah, we kind of let the kids determine what that looked like for them, especially Brady being older.
Yeah.
Where he had, he was 12 at the time. And Brady is a very special person. He's very unique. And anyone who knows Brady says that about him. And so to introduce someone else into his life, I was very cautious. And, I had to make sure that I was comfortable with it and that he would be comfortable with it too. Because to me, as his mom, he is so special to me. But even beyond that, he's just a special kid. I just wanted to make sure that everything was, slow for him.
Yeah.
So with Brady, were you pretty open with him? Because he's probably old enough that he could understand probably more than Quinn and Tucker, because they were a little bit younger maybe.
Yeah.
Were you pretty frank with him? Like, hey, I'm seeing somebody. I really like her. It's getting serious. Are you interested in meeting her? Or how did that look when you said you kind of let him be in control of that?
Yeah. So in the beginning, I didn't really know which direction it was going to go. I knew how I felt about Megan and that I did want to date her and get to know her more. And so in the very beginning, it was a reference as, she's one of my friends and, I'm talking to her a lot, but he at the time even could tell that I was happy and that, talking to her, how that made me feel. And
kids are very insightful.
Oh yeah.
They can read the mood and the feelings so well.
No, I totally agree. And I think Brady is exceptional, especially because that's one of the things that makes him exceptional is leading up to this, all he wanted, and he would tell me this, and he and I have always been very open in the way that we talk to each other. I've been very honest with him, age appropriately, of course, with situations and stuff, but I've always been very honest with him about what is going on and why things are happening and how, and all he wanted for me at this time, based on our conversations, was for me to be happy and for me to have someone, because he knew that my relationship with him was not that was not everything for me, and that he wanted me to have more and to have someone too. And so after, the whole friend identification passed and I knew that Megan was going to be more, she was able to come and spend, short periods of time with him to get to know him as his friend and just see how he reacted to her. And of course, he just adored her from day one. I mean, they were just buddies from day one. And I think that he knew how happy that made me. And so he was on board from the beginning. I think, and I don't want to speak for him, but this is just based on our conversations and seeing their interaction too.
I have a question. So you talked about communication, and it sounds like it's played a huge part in helping him smoothly transition to new families and blended families. Now, how did you communicate during the time of going from your marriage with his dad to now being in relationships with women? How was that communication? And yeah, tell me just a little bit more about that.
Sure. Right. So that was one of my biggest fears, was what is Brady going to think, and what are his friends going to think, and what are his friends' parents going to think, right? Because I want him to have the most normal and smooth life. I mean, that's what you want for your kids. So he was very young. He was only 2 when we divorced. And so I would say from the time he was 2 onward, he saw me, with women. And I also did date some men during that time too, during those years. And so just being open with him about love and who made me happy, and that it was okay to love who you love. And if that person makes you happy, and, based on my opinion, if they're a good person and they bring good things into our life, then that was the direction that we were going to go. And so I think because we had these conversations from such an early age, it was never a thought to him. In fact, even with his friends, it was never a thought. And I don't know if it's this generation, right? Mm-hmm. This younger generation that just sees it and it's more commonplace. But I also think that acceptance from us and acceptance from people that he looks up to, and conversations with my sisters and my family and their acceptance of me really just helped shape his view on it all. It just never was something that he ever thought twice about. And that there was a period of time where he was kind of hesitant to say out loud to his friends, my mom's or my mom and her girlfriend. But when he saw us living out and talking to other parents and other adults about our relationship, I think that gave him a little bit of courage to do that same thing with his friends. Mm-hmm. And once he had the experience of labeling it, even I think just saying it out loud to his friends of my mom's, or, hey, I have 2 moms. I remember he came home from school one time and was like, yeah, I told, one of my friends, whoever the friend was, that I have 2 moms. And I was like, oh, how did they respond? He's like, they just said it was really cool. And they thought it was really cool that I had 2 moms. And quite honestly, that has been the only response he's gotten. Mm-hmm. And so I think being open here in our home and giving him that confidence to then at his own pace, right? We never told him he needed to do or refer to us in any way other than how he felt comfortable. We left that up to him. I think a lot of parents put their expectations on kids, right? I mean, it would have been very easy for us to say, hey, Brady, you need to just tell your friends that you have 2 moms. And if they have a problem with it, you shouldn't be friends with them. Right. But we didn't. I mean, very honestly, this is Brady's life. And he also has the choice of what makes him comfortable. And he needs to navigate through that on his own. That's how I've always seen it. And that's basically how our conversations have been shaped. So,
and that communication, that open communication, pays dividends for the future of his ability to come to you with just everyday concerns that he has, whether it's school or dating or whatever it may be. Like, that just opens up those doors. And so I really admire how you have gone about that.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with that, because even to this day, he comes to us with, for all we know, I mean, with everything. We have some conversations that I never would have even thought I could have with my parents growing up. Like, I hope that he trusts us, and I think that he does, because the conversations that we have with him are about hard things, even as, a teenager, hard things. And it's really cool to see exactly what you just said, right? Like, he has learned that this is a safe place for communication, and we're not just his moms. Like, he can come and talk to us about everything, and he does.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's like what I hope, but it's so hard to, I don't know. It's obviously something, a culture that you have instilled in him from when he was young. And it's so easy to, I think it just takes so much work of like showing interest in them and being vulnerable and showing your weaknesses to your children and helping them realize you're human too, and that you have struggles too. And I think sometimes we have this pressure to be like, to not have those, right? To be like, I'm the mom. Like, I know, like I don't struggle. And and it can be hard because you have to be vulnerable as a parent. And so that's such a good reminder, I think, for me, because that's like my greatest wish, is to have my boys, when they're teenagers, be comfortable enough to come to me and know that I'm not going to be like, you did what? Or you said what? And not judge them. But I feel like that starts now, right? It's not just like when he turns 16, suddenly you're like, okay, now we're going to be open with you. And so it's a really good reminder of like, you started that age appropriately from the very beginning.
I feel like you're exactly right. So Brady saw a lot of that vulnerability from me from an early age, right? There's a lot that comes with being a single parent and a gay mom and relationships. And he was an only child for a long time too. And I'll be honest with you, I made it a point, back to this age appropriately thing, but I made it a point to not hide that vulnerability from him, because I agree with you. I think as moms, it's so easy to just put on our happy face and mom's okay. And we want to make it easy for our kids, and we don't want them to have to experience any heartache or stress. And I think that is probably, seeing him now and how he communicates and deals with things now, I'm so glad that I did that, because I can have a hard day and he doesn't take that on, and he's not worried about me because he knows that it's just a hard day and I'm human. I'm not, super mom, and I have emotions. And when he goes through his emotion, he understands that he's allowed to feel that too. He's allowed to have hard days. Megan's allowed to have hard days. And so when one of us is going through something, we can talk about it, and it's okay. His world is not ending because mom is having, a mental breakdown during the quarantine, right? Like, it's like, oh my God. And so it's like, okay, we're all going to be okay. And so, yes, it's that emotional intelligence, right? That I think a lot of moms do an injustice to their kids, and they hide that from them. And I really think, as a mom of a 16-year-old, having been a single mom from the time he was 2 until about 12, that is one thing I would say to moms. Do not hide your vulnerabilities. Communicate about your vulnerabilities and let them see that, because that's how they learn. That's how they learn to cope and to get through hard things, and that it's okay, and that they can come to you too, right? They learn to trust you through that. So,
like Katy said, kids are very intuitive and they pick up on things. And so when mom's crying because she's having a bad day and the kid comes up and says, "What's wrong?" and you say, "Nothing, mom's fine. Mom's fine. Mom's happy. I'm happy. I'm fine." It's like a very jarring image for them, because their body and their emotions and everything is telling them something's off with mom, but she's saying it's okay. And these two, things that she's saying, they're not aligning. And so it really, putting a name to emotions and saying that it's okay to feel those are such empowering things that we can do for our children.
And I think taking it one step further too, with Quinn and Tucker, introducing them as a stepmom, right? I'm always like treading lightly, like how much should they see from me, right? And like Megan is mom, and so they should see all of her vulnerability. But as stepmom, what should I be allowed to, and what should and shouldn't I? And so, with each of their needs, which are very different from Brady's,
right,
because they are very different from Brady and from each other, that's been a tough dynamic for me as a stepmom. I think it's been easy with Brady, but it's been tough as a stepmom to navigate that. So
right, let's hear that, Megan. So we kind of heard how Chrissy helped Brady kind of blend into this family. How did you approach it with your children and helping them kind of be comfortable with it and kind of that transition?
So for adjusting into adulthood for me has been a rocky experience because I feel like life growing up was great. Like I was good at playing soccer. I was captain of the soccer team. I played soccer in college. I lived a very privileged life growing up. And so hitting adulthood and going through a divorce and realizing that, I have my own struggles and mental health issues. And that was one thing that really drew me into Chrissy, is that I love the way she addressed mental health. I love the way that she communicated and still communicates through how she's feeling and problems. And I love the way that she communicates with Brady. And that was something that I wanted for Quinn and Tucker. So it was something that I was immediately like, yeah, this is something that not only I need to learn and how to be more okay with just letting myself have some issues and work through my own things and be vulnerable, but I wanted to teach that to Quinn and Tucker too. That's been something that I feel like we work on as individuals. It's what we work on as a couple, and what we try to practice and teach our kids as well. Because life is hard. Life is really hard, and I think we all have different stuff, and being able to work through issues and challenges in life and failures, even though we do things that are bad, doesn't mean that we're a bad person.
So what did conversations look like between you two when you were thinking about, getting married and blending your families together? Chrissy, you mentioned a little bit about like being a stepmom, and how, when you talked about that stuff of saying like, hey, we're both bringing different kids into this, and we're both kind of like the main mom and then like the stepmom. How did you guys kind of talk about like how you're going to discipline and how you're going to, teach in the home with other influences? And, like obviously you have an ex-wife that is also parenting. And so what did those conversations look like? How did you kind of decide to divide that responsibility of parenting?
I'll be honest, that's probably been the easiest thing for us. I feel like from day one, we have just naturally been on the same page, and the blending of, discipline strategies, and not necessarily what either of us were practicing at the time, but what we both wanted to implement in the home. When it comes to Megan's kids, she handles most of their discipline. I mean, if she's not around and something happens, of course I'll step in, but that's absolutely 100% her role. And that's her responsibility. I feel like as a stepmom to her kids, that's not my job. It is my job to teach and, be an example to them. And I definitely do have conversations with them about, shoulds and shouldn'ts, and they are still really little. And so I think with them being so little, that was a pretty easy dynamic to just overcome. Where with Brady, I'll be honest, he does not require a lot of discipline.
You lucked out.
Yes, I'm not just saying that like he's a phenomenon. Like, I don't understand how he is our child, but I have handled from. It's so true. It's so true. And I know he's in the other room listening to this.
And he's like, what are they saying about me?
I just walked in to get more coffee, and he's just laying on the floor, just grinning at me. I'm like, you can come in and listen. But with Brady, I have always handled the discipline, but since Megan adopted him, I've really wanted him to have the experience of two parents, something that had been missing from his life. And so it was really important to me, and it is really important to me, for Megan to pick up a lot of the discipline role for him. And she's done a really great job at that. We definitely, she's the nice mom, and I'm definitely the more strict mom. But I think it's been so cool for the kids to have both of our, even though we have different personalities, our parenting styles are similar. So, our expectations of the kids are the same, and our, discipline is the same. We discipline a lot with you have the choice to do this, and if you choose this, then you're choosing to go to timeout, or you're choosing this result. So you're welcome to do that, but if you choose that, then this is going to be your choice. And so I think, we've been on the same page as far as what we've wanted the kids to learn as far as their own actions.
I remember a very distinct conversation when we had probably been together for a year or so. And so I, of course, been in Brady's life, very active in Brady's life. And I remember the conversation. I can't remember if he did something or just made a mess or I can't remember what it was. But I approached the situation very lightly, right? I didn't know exactly, you know, how much I should, you know, get on his case about it. I was trying to just juggle that. And I remember Chrissy saying, he has enough friends in his life. He needs another parent. And at that point, I was like, you're right. And I was still nice about it, but made it very clear, I am also a parent role in your life. I will also be with mom, and we will set restrictions and boundaries and expectations.
Yeah, we have high expectations of our kids. I think, you know, and kind of touching on the other part of your question with the, I guess, dynamic of having another parent involved, a co-parent, we have made the conscious decision that she parents one way in her home and we parent this way in our home, and both are okay. But the kids know that when they walk in that door, the expectation of we're a family and we interact together and our decisions affect everyone in this family, not just you. And so I think we have identified early on that there are differences in each household, but we're okay with that. And we allow her, and that was hard in the beginning, was trying to be okay with, you know, their mom parenting them one way and their mom parenting them a different way in, you know, in our home. And that was a really hard dynamic to work through. But I think the more that we have accepted that and been open in our communication with that with the kids, the more that they have understood that and really just kind of eased into it.
Like, kids just need stability and consistency. And so I'm just so impressed that you guys have been able to do that, because you've been through a lot and you've had a lot of inconsistency in your life. And so it's really impressive that you're able to still find something that's a constant for them to, you know, to be able to thrive. So I know that you were both working at one point in real estate, right? Different areas of real estate. So now that you have your home, and are you both still working? How are you dividing kind of like the work at home, all the work that has to happen at home, work-life balance? Yeah. How do you kind of divide the labors between you two and even amongst your kids at this point?
I mean, Brady pretty much does everything. Kidding.
He's our chef.
I know. He really is like the angel child.
No, he does dishes and garbage and the yard. That's his own laundry. Room. Yeah, he's responsible for all of his stuff. That's not really something we've drawn a hard line on as far as division of responsibilities.
It's been nice. A year and a half ago, I went into accounting. I wanted to go back into something a little bit more stable. Real estate is lots of nights and weekends, and especially with the move, it was very inconsistent as far as income goes. And so I decided I wanted to go back to school. I wanted to get a degree in accounting. So I'm still working on that. So I'm working on my MBA right now. So that's been, and it's been tax season, so it's been longer hours. So I've been working at home a lot.
Megan, are you working on top of going to school too?
Yeah.
Whew. Oh yeah. She works full-time, goes to school full-time. She'll get up early mornings on the weekends and work on her schoolwork while the rest of the house is still sleeping. So we rarely see her doing her schoolwork because she makes that sacrifice to get up early in the day to get her stuff done so that it doesn't take time away from the family. So as far as balancing like the childcare and the home responsibilities and work hours, you know, in a non-quarantine world, our life looked like, you know, we get up early and have our workout time in the morning from, 5 a.m. till 6, whatever. We go to work and take the kids to daycare, and Brady goes to school. Brady gets himself to school. And then we get home. And when we get home, Megan's always the one to get the littles, she'll get them to and from daycare. And so I usually do most of the cooking. Megan is really
she's better at it.
Megan tried it once and then we can
burn everything.
She's really good at breakfast stuff. So I mean, we just set schedules. I live very well within schedules, and Megan understands that. And so Thursday night is our house cleaning night so that we don't have to do it on the weekends. And then when it comes to just like the laundry, Megan usually does all the laundry. I do the cooking, and then Brady has his chores. He does the garbages and the lawn, and the dishes are always Brady's. And so, but I mean, we step in, and if someone needs help with something, it's like, cool, I've got the laundry tonight, or I'll finish doing it. And it's just a very collaborative thing. Like no one really, except for Brady, has any defined role in this house. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys have it all working. You just like all the working parts, everyone's contributing their part. And so it all kind of works together. What is something that has made an impact on you and your role as a mom?
My relationship with my mom is not the greatest. We don't talk much. She, again, going back to my upbringing, she's very conservative, religious. And so my choices and who I am does not jive with her expectations of me. And she just hasn't really been able to reconcile that. And she was a great mom. She took care of us. She provided for us. She worked really hard. But I never had that emotional connection with my mom the way that my friends did, and the way that I really needed, to be honest with you. And I just had this drive. I love Brady so much. Like, I always wanted him to feel that he was first to me, and that he could come to me with anything, and that I was there to provide for him, and to protect him, and to teach him, and to listen to him, and to let him be himself. Like, I've always wanted him to know that who he is who I love. He does not need to be who anyone wants him to be, especially me. Like, yes, I have expectations of him to, reach his goals and to work hard and to be a good person. But I love him for who he is. And I really feel like that's something that I lack from my mom. And I've even seen my sisters and my brother do the same thing with their kids. They have the same relationship with their kids that I have with Brady, because that is definitely something that we miss. I think your relationship with your kids as a mother is so important. I do not define myself as a mom. That is just a role that I have in my life, but that's not who I am. I feel very, very lucky to be a part of Brady's life. And I've said this before, I really don't feel like I'm here for him. I feel like he is here to help me be a better person. And understanding that and realizing that and having the upbringing that I had, I think all of these little pieces have really just come together in the way that I feel about my role in his life. Like, I'm just along for the ride with him. I have responsibilities in that, but this is his life. And I'm just, I'm lucky to be a part of it. And that's how I view my relationship with him, and how I always have.
Even though it may not have been your ideal upbringing and your experiences, you're learning from them, and you are doing the best that you can regardless of your circumstances, and you're creating this beautiful purpose for who you are.
Megan, how about you? What is something that's impacted you and your role as a mom?
Foundationally, I've always believed and always felt that family is key to my happiness and purpose in this life.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that was something that, I had felt and noticed that I was different. In fact, it was 7th grade when I remember walking in the hall at middle school thinking, and saying to myself and trying to convince myself, like, I'm not gay. I'm not gay. These are not real feelings. And just, I pushed it away all through middle school and high school. And finally just got to the point where, like, I knew it was so fundamentally a part of me. I am so gay and I could not fight it anymore. And I embraced it. But there was also that huge fear of, now what? Do I get a family? Am I going to be by myself? Like, and this was still in a time before marriage was legalized, and it was still very stigmatized, and it was very, very scary. And, coming out and being gay or lesbian or whatever meant you didn't get to be in your family anymore. You didn't get to be a part of your church anymore. You didn't get to be a part of your community anymore. And you would go find your new group of friends, your little family group in the city, and you would just go live a party lifestyle. And you'd be by yourself, and you'd have multiple partners, and I didn't like that. It didn't feel like me. It wasn't like this true, lasting, worthwhile life or happiness. And so that's why I still, as I was coming out, was just like, I want a family. I want to be a mom. So that was just something that I always come back to, is these people that we have pulled all together, is so essential to who I am. And it helps every single day. Like, life is so good. And I love being in my family.
I love that. It really is that motherhood, regardless of how you go about motherhood can really be a beautiful thing that enriches your life and brings you joy that you maybe don't understand or comprehend, or, things that you learn that you wouldn't learn otherwise through being a mom. And so that's just beautiful. And it's just good for you for sticking to those things. 'Cause like you said, like, that wasn't the life you wanted. The party life wasn't what you wanted. And you worked hard and made sure that you got what you wanted, which was a family. And I think that is, a lot of people could have caved and just been like, it's not going to work for me. And you stuck to it. You knew that was what you wanted, and that it's brought you happiness. So it's wonderful.
I have to add to that, though. I give Megan props, because not even props. Like, I admire her so much, because she did leave it was very hard to leave a situation that she knew would, she knew that leaving would create heartache, and it did. And she knew what she wanted. And motherhood truly is a gift. And as someone who, for me, I had Brady very easily, right? I was married. I had a husband. It was what I was supposed to do. But for Megan, it was not easy.
Right.
She fought for her kids, both legally and, motherhood truly to her is a gift in a way that is so different from my experience. And she treats it with such respect. She loves her kids in a way that she knows that she is so lucky to have those kids. Not only is it something that she's always wanted, but what she had to go through to get the kids initially, and then, divorce is hard, right? We're so lucky to have the kids as much as we do. And to see her just really adore those kids and treat motherhood with such respect. And it really is something that I admire about her. And I learned so much about her, is how special being a mother is, right? That role it's a gift, and it's not something that comes easily to a lot of women.
Right. Yeah, it's something that we often can take for granted when it does come with ease. It reminds me of an episode we had on IVF where, it was Katy's sister-in-law who really struggled. And she, in the same way, was just so grateful to have this child that she had worked so hard to get. And so I think that, yeah, we do have to remember, even if it comes easy, it's a privilege, and it's truly a gift to be a mother.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say, you guys are sharing so many gems, but I just want to know, like, if you were to give advice to other moms out there, what is it that you would want them to know?
I mean, I just feel like I go back to, the biggest lesson that I have learned and am continuing to learn is to accept myself and let myself be flawed and let that be okay. I'm not perfect. And I think it's okay to not be perfect.
Right? Just going back to showing the kids that vulnerability. I think that's the best thing that you can do for your kids, is showing them that you are a real person just like they are, and that they're not expected to grow up without hard times and without negative feelings and without mental health issues. I think showing them that you're human. One of the hardest parenting things for me has been, since Brady has been growing up and reaching, puberty, not for him. He's been fantastic through it. I mean, usually that's when your kids turn into monsters and like crazy teenagers. He's amazing. It was hard for me as a mom to let go of him when, 6 months ago, as he was, changing and growing and learning how to fail. That was really hard for me because I was trying to hold on to him so tightly and help him succeed and teach him the right things that he needs to do to succeed. And he needed to learn that on his own. He needed to be let go of and learn how to do that on his own. And he's okay. And I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that as moms, learning to let go of your kids again and understanding who they are, not who you want them to be, but who they are, is very ironically what's going to keep you closer together. If you can let go of your kids emotionally, right, and let them be who they are, it's going to make your relationship with them as teenagers, I would say, specifically, because this is what, this is the stage that we're in right now. I feel like it has helped our relationship tremendously.
I think there's a lot of trust that goes into that. And I think when you can show your child that you trust them and their instincts and their ability to think things through and choose things for themselves, they gain that confidence and they trust in themselves and they are able to do more. I think oftentimes when we try and like kind of helicopter a little bit and say, oh, well, no, you can't do that, let me help you do that, it doesn't help them build that confidence. They kind of get lost or insecure or they push you away because they want to do it themselves, and it can cause a rift in that relationship as well. So
absolutely. And they don't grow. How can you grow? How can these kids grow if you're holding on so tightly to them and they're not failing, right? We all know the way we grow and learn is through failure. And as a parent, that is really hard to watch your kids do. Knowing what he has gone through in his life and the hard things he's had to experience growing up, I want to make his life so easy and just comfortable. But I can't do that for him. That's not doing him any good at all. And he has just continued to grow into this exceptional young man. Like the more I let go of him, the more he impresses us. Right?
Yeah.
He's incredible. And yeah, just let go.
I love
Right.
that.
And I think anyone who feels like they're not living up to what their parents expect them to be, like if they feel different or if they feel like they're less than or they're not who their parents hoped and wished that they should be, that's a really hard feeling to live with. And I think that trauma can carry into a lot of adult lives too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think as parents, and we keep coming back to this, is just letting them be themselves and being there to push them in the right direction and to set boundaries and restrictions for them to help them in their own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
and showing consequences and allowing them to fail, but also keeping that acceptance of who they are there, whoever they are, letting them be them, I think is so important.
Awesome. Thank you. Those are such great gems. Chrissy and Megan, thank you so much. I feel like there's just so much to be learned from every mom. And there's just so many different types of moms, and we can learn from every single one of them. And so I'm so grateful for your experiences today in hearing and learning from those. And I hope that those of you listening have also gotten something out of this. And we're so grateful for you guys being here today, and we'll catch you next week. Thank you so much for tuning into the Motherhood Tribe.